learn to be better communicators, or are we stuck with the communication skill level and competence that we were sort of born with? So in this video, I'm going to define what I mean by the statement that communication is a skill that can be learned. Hi everybody, I'm Bruce Lambert from How Communication Works. This is a channel where I teach you about communication skill so you can improve your relationships, succeed at work, be more confident, and lead a more fulfilling life. Some people believe that communication skill is like height or eye color or hair color. That is, it's like an inborn trait and that there's nothing we can do about it. We were either born lucky with a lot of communication skill or we were born unlucky with a lower level of communication skill. There is a sense in which that is correct. That is that genetically we are endowed with certain innate capabilities which might make us better or worse communicators. So we have a sort of baseline level of communication skill, the same way we might have a baseline level of athletic ability or musical ability or scientific ability or something like that. But there's an important sense in which that belief is wrong. And that is that communication is a skill, meaning it's a goal-directed activity that you can learn to be better at with practice. So even though we might be born with a certain innate disposition to be good or bad at communication, we can improve from that point. Now, some people might be born with a greater innate disposition and they have an easier time. They have to practice less because they're intrinsically more skilled. But communication is a skill. It can be learned. If you've come to a YouTube channel called How Communication Works, I'm going to assume you're interested in improving your communication skills. But you might also be discouraged, or you might believe, well, I just am the way I am and I can't get any better and I've tried, but it's been frustrating and I haven't gotten any better. I get it. It's hard to improve at any skill, but I want to make a few points in this video about how communication is a skill, like any other motor skill or any other cognitive skill, meaning there's a genetic component which might determine our eventual maximum capacity, and it sort of determines our starting point. But it's a skill, meaning there's a huge range of possible levels of performance that we might attain depending on how much we practice and how hard we try to learn more and get better. So I want to talk about the very idea that communication is a skill. And I take this from the Handbook of Communication Skills, which is a sort of textbook about the various communication skills. And this is from the first chapter of that book, where it defines communication as a skill. And one of the first things it says is that a skill is a goal-directed, intentional activity that can be learned and improved by practice. So that's what I mean when I say communication is a skill. It's a goal-directed, intentional activity that can be improved with practice. Another important point about communication being a skill is that it's learned. It doesn't mean that there isn't an innate genetic basis for these skills. Obviously, I have to have the musculature, I have to have a fully functioning neurological system and sensory system in order to be able to produce speech and understand speech and derive correct inferences from communication. So we're assuming a sort of a healthy body, which is our genetic endowment. We say that we've really acquired the skill or can engage in skillful performance when we can produce a fluent and effective performance. Fluent means smooth, without a lot of stops and starts and errors. Effective means that whatever the skillful performance is, it achieves its goals. So a skillful performance is one that is fluent and effective at achieving its goals. All of us can communicate at some level or other, but we only say someone is a skillful communicator if they can do so fluently and effectively. Once a skill is acquired, it can be done with very little effort. When I'm just first learning to play guitar or play tennis or drive a car or, cook or anything like that, I make a lot of mistakes. Right? So in the beginning, as we're acquiring a skill, it's an effortful performance. But we say a behavior is skillful and someone has achieved a high level of skill when they can perform effectively and fluently, seemingly effortlessly. So that's another characteristic of a skill. And it involves internal processes of analysis and setting goals and executing plans and so on. Social skill in particular, or communication skill, involves obviously both speaking and listening, that is producing utterances and comprehending utterances, but also in engaging in interaction in such a way that we fulfill our own goals and needs while at the same time respecting and helping to fulfill the goals and needs and rights of the people that we're interacting with. And that's what makes social interaction difficult, is the need to simultaneously meet our needs and the needs and goals of the people that we're interacting with. And people who can do both those things successfully, we call skillful at communication. I think goals are an underemphasized aspect of communication skill. Often when I coach people about communication skill, I'm not really coaching them necessarily about exactly what to say, though sometimes we talk about that. But often the difference between less skillful and more skillful communicators is in the goals that they identify. So less skillful communicators might not have any clear goal in mind, or they might have a goal like just tell people how I feel. Whereas more skillful communicators have a clear goal in mind, and it's often a different goal than less skillful communicators have. The goal for a very skillful communicator might be something like achieve consensus on a plan, or maintain a relationship over time, or respect the needs of all the parties involved, or focus on the future. These are the kinds of goals that skillful communicators have, and they may differ from those that less skillful communicators would adopt, whereas less skillful communicators might not have a clear goal at all. It's useful to think about skills developing through 4 stages. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. That is, I don't even know I'm not any good at communication. So we meet people like this. They think they're good communicators, but everybody who knows them thinks that they're bad communicators. So this is the level of unconscious incompetence. You don't even know you're bad. The second level is when you learn, oh, I'm no good at communication or tennis or cooking or driving or whatever, the woodworking or piano playing or whatever the skill is. This is the level of conscious incompetence. I now know that I'm not any good at this skill. And that's an important advance from the first level, which is unconscious incompetence, because when you're unconsciously incompetent, you're not even trying to get any better because you don't realize how bad you are. The second level, conscious incompetence, is, oh, I'm not very good at this skill. I need to practice and learn to get better. The third level of skill acquisition is conscious competence. And that is, I now know that I'm pretty good at this, but I still have to concentrate and be consciously aware of my goals and of my efforts at being good. So I know that I can be good at this, at piano playing or driving or golfing or communicating, if I concentrate and I'm present and I'm focused on my goals and I'm trying hard. If I'm distracted or not at my best, I might not be any good. So this is a level of conscious competence. I'm good, and I know that I'm good, but it requires conscious effort to be good. And the fourth level, the highest level of the most skillful performers in any domain, is what we call unconscious competence. That is, you're extremely good, and it seems like you're exerting no effort. You don't even need to concentrate that hard or seemingly to exert much conscious control over your performance. So when we see, for example, an extremely talented virtuoso musician, they appear to play effortlessly, even though a lifetime of practice has gone into the appearance of playing effortlessly, a lifetime of diligent effort. But once they get to this level of unconscious competence, there's so much muscle memory, so much has become automatic about the skill that they no longer have to exert conscious control over where to put their fingers or something like that. They can concentrate only on the aesthetic quality of their performance. So this is the highest level that we can aspire to in acquiring any skill, the level of unconscious competence. So often in communication skills training that I've conducted, our goal is just to take people from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. Because sometimes people come into especially difficult communication situations thinking they're good at them, and we have to put people in role plays and show them, oh no, you're not that good at this yet. This is a hard skill. And we show them that by putting them in role plays with actors and letting them try to practice the skills in front of an audience. And then they realize, I'm not so good. And when they realize they're not so good, they've gotten to the level of conscious incompetence. And this is a real achievement in terms of education, because now they can focus on exerting explicit effort to get better and hopefully then get to the level of conscious competence and eventually unconscious competence. Finally, perhaps the most obvious point, but in some ways maybe discouraging or frustrating one, learning a skill requires practice. There's the famous 10,000 hours rule that Anders Ericsson came up with in talking about the acquisition of expertise like chess. It's not clear that we all need 10,000 hours. There may be some shortcuts, but the essence of the point is true, that to acquire a high level of skill, to attain this level of unconscious competence at any complex skill, requires many hours of deliberate practice. So the good news is communication is a skill. It's a learnable, goal-directed activity that gets better with practice. The bad news is, if you're looking for a shortcut, there's not an obvious shortcut. You have to put in many, many hours of practice with feedback, with coaching, and so on to move through these levels of skill. But you're on your way, you've come to this channel, so I'm assuming you're at the level at least of conscious incompetence, knowing that you need help to get better. Maybe you're already at the level of conscious competence or unconscious competence, and you're just trying to see what I have to say about this topic. If you like this kind of video, go on over to howcommunicationworks.com. Give me your email and I'll send you an ebook about empathy. I'll put you on my mailing list. I don't mail you too frequently, I promise. If you like videos like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this channel with your friends. I'd be grateful if you did that. Thanks for your time and watching the video. We'll see you next time.